Hello and welcome to Give Voice to Your Vision. I am so excited to bring the amazing Derek Rydall here to share on his expertise and his brilliance and his inspired teaching on abundance, on wealth, on how can we create, attract, generate wealth under any circumstances today. I know the world has been crazy, and Derek is one of a new generation of spiritual visionaries. And so it's very exciting to have him here. Derek is the author of EMERGENCE, which is 7 steps for radical life change. And I'm going to read this because I love what it says so much, which revealed the revolutionary principle, the law of emergence. This is where I heard you and met you for the first time when you were releasing this a few years ago, I think, showing people how to tap into the pattern of perfection in any area of their life and create the right conditions for it to unfold. Love that. He also, are you still hosting the Emergence podcast?
Mm-hmm.
The Emergence podcast, and is the creator of Awakened Wealth. So we are lucky to have you here, and I can't wait to hear what you share with us today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor and pleasure, really, to be here.
I would love to jump in and hear, since we're talking about abundance, and we hear a lot of people talking about abundance and mindset and prosperity, and I think we do all have our own definition of that. And I would love to jump in and have you share your definition of abundance.
Yeah, there's probably 2 ways that I would phrase it. And I think it's very important that we will get into the real meaning or the real substance of abundance. But abundance to me means to have all that you need to thrive. So it's the state that nature is in before we get in there and mess with it. Right? It's like everything it's not about it has this quantity or that much. It has what it needs for the seed of its true nature and potential to blossom and to thrive. That's abundance. And another word could be all needs met. The reason I say all that you need to truly thrive is because depending on what we think we need, we may not have everything we want, but it's about having everything you truly need. And also that it's not material. It's not necessarily material, that the true nature of abundance or wealth is invisible or is spiritual or is consciousness, whatever word you want to use. And I'm sure we'll unpack that more today. It's critical because if you think abundance is dollar bills or stocks or bonds, cabbages or kings, you're going to be in trouble, especially when there's not anything in your bank account or your body's breaking down or your business is just closed the doors or the economy is what it is. If you think your wealth and abundance is in the world, you will struggle. And so we'll talk about that today, though.
I would be super curious to hear your take on kind of the opposite. We have a lot of people in my world that are spiritual or visionary or thought leaders. I come from an artistic background, singer, songwriter, actor.
I love that you say, I'm like, wait, I want to sing with you.
I know. We can write that song. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, singing was something that I couldn't do for a long time. So it's a part of the journey. But here we have visionaries and healers and the spiritual and the woo-woo and the coaches and the transformation industry folk. And for me, living that life and on that path since I was a wee 24 years old now for 30 years, I had the opposite. Like I was just so grateful for my peace of mind, or I was just so grateful for these other things that I didn't include. And because I was trained in the yogi world as well, and that whole philosophy and the starving artist mentality, right? I got into a mindset of like, I'm just grateful for what I have. And I didn't include the prosperity, right? Yes. The abundance. And for me, my spiritual path has been, and the people that I love to support and that are here in this community are unlocking their permission to generate all kinds of wealth. And I would love to hear your
absolutely. And of course, I relate. If you know my story, I mean,
I do.
I'm basically an artist mystic or a philosopher creator, those 2 archetypes, and a singer songwriter and all of that, and I grew up as an artist and a philosopher kid and And then it was like, I got married and had a mortgage. So I was like, oh crap, I got to find a way to make money with my art. And there's a lot of directions we could go here, but one of them is one of the hypnotic wealth spells, which I'm going to be giving away to you guys
Definitely.
a whole package of free trainings and books and all this stuff. But one of the hypnotic wealth spells is that, money is not spiritual, or that wealth and abundance and success is not spiritual. Mother Teresa took a vow of poverty, and Jesus walked around with, bare feet or whatever.
Right.
And we fully missed the principle there. What a vow of poverty means is you are no longer, that the source of your wealth and abundance is not in the world. And and are not attached to the symbols and objects of wealth and abundance. Mother Teresa was one of the wealthiest people around. She could walk into a company, and she did, and walk out with a big fat check. And if it wasn't big and fat enough, she would sit down and meditate until it was bigger and fatter. So she was extremely rich. She just didn't necessarily need to own it. That was her way. But she had no problem manifesting wealth and abundance. And so that's what it really means. Spiritually, it means that you recognize, or like, the love of money is the root of all evil, right?
Yeah.
So it's this idea. And mostly they say that money is the root of all evil, which misses the first part.
100%.
And then they also don't understand what it's saying. It's saying the love of the symbols of wealth, money, dollar bills. Because, and I'll give a little background, the real substance of wealth is not the dollar bill, right? Originally, when we, as villages and tribes, we gave our life force. What's that?
Salt was the symbol.
Salt is where the word salary comes from. So the Romans were paid in salt. And so salary, saliva, all that comes from the same thing. Salt was the salary. Currency comes from the root current, which means flow of energy. Affluence, which means to be wealthy, comes from the root to flow. Mm-hmm. So, and when we first started generating our abundance, we were just expressing of our love and our service and our gifts, talents, and abilities in a tribe. And then those were just exchanged in a flow. And then as that tribe grew to a town, I would create bread. And then I would need some candles. I'd give you a little bread for some candles, a little bread for some chickens, a little bread for some eggs. And then eventually I couldn't make enough bread or store enough bread in order to get enough of what I needed. So we had to create a money system. Yeah. And so all that money is a symbol of an energy, of a currency, of a current, of your life force. The fruit on a tree is not the wealth of the tree. It's the symbol of the wealth. And that's why when all the trees are barren and the farmer doesn't go, well, I guess we should burn the trees down, right? Because the wealth is still there. So having an abundance of wealth is, first of all, knowing what the real nature and substance of wealth is, and the real source of wealth, which is within you. And what did one master say? I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. I've come that you may, get by, make ends meet.
Just have enough to get by.
Have enough to get around. You look around, all around you, there's more. Is there just enough stars in the sky to just make sure you don't bump into everything? Is there just enough grains on the sand so that you're not walking around on, the crust of the earth? Everywhere we look is abundance. And I will even go so far as to say that our spiritual obligation is to show forth the glory of God, of life, and of abundance. Life wants to put itself on display as us. Life, you think the Grand Canyon is one of the wonders of the world? You ain't seen nothing yet until you see yourself allowing life to put itself on display. You are meant to be a wonder of the world. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily should or need to have millions of dollars. I don't know what fulfillment and thriving abundance is for you, but it does mean, as I said in the very beginning, abundance means all of your needs met, all of your life structures stable and strong, health, wealth, work, relationships, personal development, growth, creativity, solid, thriving, so that you have all the conditions you need for that seed of purpose and potential in you to blossom in all of its majesty and give all of its gifts and fruits back to the ecosystem of humanity. That is your mission. And so if you're just trying to get by, or you think, who am little me to have so much, then you have missed the idea. You are an infinite expression of life. And life will, if you let it, and wants to, meet all of your needs. Like just think of the way you feel towards your children or towards your beloved, somebody you really love. It's like, do you just want to be like, they ask you for something, you're like, you give them like just a little breadcrumb, like, here,
Yeah,
be
okay.
happy. You should be satisfied.
Here's a little something.
Right. No, you're like, oh, I will give you everything if I could.
Yeah.
That's not even a pinprick of the way life sees and holds us.
Beautiful.
Life is just waiting to give us everything, but we have to let it. Life is on our side, but we have to get on our own side. And as I say in Emergence, the only thing that's missing is what we're not giving and allowing to flow through us. Life's never withholding anything from us. We hold ourselves from life.
Love it so, so, so much. I'm thinking about so we talk a lot in my world about giving voice to your work, your calling, and it doesn't leave you alone, and that is part of your abundance, and that your full, free self-expression to the greater good of all, including yourself, is a part of that wealth and abundance, and that it doesn't really leave us alone. For the folks here, it doesn't really leave us alone. And so I am so grateful to have you here. We promised that they would feel a shift. So I felt a shift as you were sharing that just now. If you're here live, please comment below when you feel a shift, or if you have questions. We're on 3 different platforms today, so I will do my best to answer, and we'll come back and definitely answer your questions. But sharing your takeaways helps us share this work with more people in the world, and that's what we're here to do. So I have heard you say you earn what you do and not a penny less. I have heard that statement from you somewhere in your readings. What does that mean?
Or why do you earn what you do and not a penny less?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of ways into this, but again, I want to lay down some of the foundation, and that is that we have to snap out of these hypnotic wealth spells or these thought viruses. We have to inoculate ourselves and immunize ourselves from these limited beliefs that we've come under. And I won't go into the whole evolutionary history of why we live under this, but we live under a materialistic perception of reality, as we've already started to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we think we're separate from our good. We think we're separate from God. We think we're separate from each other. We think we're separate from love and abundance and wealth and all the things that we want. And we experience that sense of separation. And then we try to add on like law of attraction or other strategies, which from a sense of separation tend to exacerbate the problem. And we may even manage to muscle ourselves into a bigger paycheck, but we're just broke at a higher income bracket. And right. And so so then here comes along emergence, the principle of emergence, which is that everything you need is already within you. The oak is already in the acorn. The acorn doesn't attract an oak or achieve an oak or become worthy of an oak or go out and build an oak. When the conditions are right, the oak emerges. And so when we believe that something or someone outside of us has to change or some condition in order for us to have everything we need, we are now a victim. We are now asleep in this hypnotic spell, and we will be stuck at that level no matter what we do. Like I said, even if we make more, we'll just be broke at that level. We'll get a new job and we'll end up with the same jerky boss. Right.
Again and again, or the same clients that are, not fulfilling their obligations or fading out, not doing their work. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Average person doesn't live 70 years. They live the same year 70 times. Right. And they're just changing their jobs, changing their mates, changing their location, changing their underwear.
Seats on the Titanic.
Right? Changing their underwear, hopefully. Yeah. But they're just moving chairs around. And but they're living.
Make me think about my teenagers right now, so let's not go there.
That's right. Yeah, unless you're a teenager, in which case every few
Then
days.
you never have to change your underwear.
Right.
Don't bathe.
Shower every few days if you must. And so yeah. But the key here is all about circulation. And I tell a story about how I was. You have to grow yourself out of where you are. It's not about getting away from where you are. It's like I remember the job from hell. You know, I was a waiter, and all this information had just come through me, and I had to get a job, and so I got a job as a waiter, and I went from being an up and coming, very successful actor to having a near death experience, almost dying twice, awakening to this emergence principle, trying to become a monk, and then having to become a waiter. So it was quite a journey.
Oh my God. I did the yogi thing. I was like, I'll just be a yogi, go live in a hill and teach beautiful
That's
principles.
exactly what I tried to do. And there's a whole funny story where I was fasting and silent for the first time in this long retreat. Only a few days in, I'm freaking out. I'm starving. I broke into the monk's kitchen in the middle of the night and stole food out of their Sub-Zero refrigerator and I'm just eating like some feral creature out of the forest. And
making me think of Kung Fu Panda. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I have seen it.
Poe definitely gets into the cookie jar there.
Totally.
One of my favorite gurus.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I got very sick and I realized the monk life wasn't for me. But so I was working at this waiter's job and I began to practice the principle. Whatever's missing is what I'm not giving. I'm a divine power plant. Everything is within me. I'm not a victim whatsoever to outer conditions. Whatever I meet is what I bring. Yeah. And so I'm going to bring the me that I would be if I was living the life of my dreams, if I was successful and thriving. And I began to bring excellence and bring creativity and bring love and bring service and bring 5-star service in a 3-star restaurant. And I got fired 3 times.
Good job.
Every time I would bring more of me, it's like it would spit me out because it wasn't a match. But eventually, by the 3rd time, I was showing up to that restaurant. I was getting the biggest tips. Everybody thought I was trying to get their job. The waiters were mad at me for being so excellent. The manager thought I was trying to get her job. But I was on fire. I was inspired. I was living my destiny. The 3rd time they decided to fire me, it was mutual. And within a month, I went from working at a $50 a day job to a $1,000 a day job. I went from working in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined around the country in 5-star restaurants. And I went from holding the vision and living into who I really was to actually doing that work. Now, that didn't happen after I got out of that job. Right. It was happening while I was on the job. And I wrote an article later called How I Stopped Waiting and Started Serving. And that's what this is. This is the ultimate weight loss program, WAIT. And it's about recognizing that we are sitting on a treasure trove and we are a divine power plant. And we are meant, as Gandhi said, to be the change we want to see in the world, whether it's the world of our family, the world of our marriage, the world of our business, or the world beyond. Yeah, it's all right here. And I can tell you this, we don't have to go into all the details, but we talked at the beginning of this. I've been through some very, very difficult times. I've gone through a divorce after 23 years. I went through the tragic loss of my son this last year, the love of my life, the light of my life. I've been through challenges in business, you name it, pretty much I've been through it. Physical challenges since I was a little kid. But this principle and this practice, the real practice of awakened wealth, of living from this storehouse of riches, took me from being broke, about to be evicted, to living in $1 million homes and multi-million dollar businesses, traveling the world, having beautiful love and family and friendship. And through these difficult challenges, economic downturns, pandemics, tragic losses, whatever you're going through, this work has not only allowed me to get through it, but to expand and deepen and become stronger as a result. And that's one of the other hypnotic wealth spells we are under, which is to adapt to our circumstances, right? So we believe that we're supposed to, shrink to fit. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, the economy's down. Let me buckle up the belt and batten down the hatches and shrink.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen on the other side of that recession, you're going to be smaller. Your channels will be atrophied. Or they broke my heart. So, I'm just going to shrink. I'm going to give as good as I get. That boss is a jerk. So I'm going to be a jerk back, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so we adapt. And on the other side, our heart is smaller. Our life is smaller. Our love is smaller. Our wealth is smaller. We shrink. But the truth principle, the awaken wealth principle, is we have to learn to expand in the face of contraction or restriction.
Yeah.
You develop your mountaintop mindset when you're in the valley.
Yeah.
So we have to dig our roots deep. That little plant in that little pot doesn't go, God, I should have a bigger pot. Why am I not in a bigger pot? Why don't I be free in the field like all those other trees? Right, I want a bigger pot. And why do all those trees get to be in the field? What's wrong with me? No, the plant digs its roots as deep as it can, spreads its branches as far as it can. It fills out that pot so much that it gets replanted in a bigger pot. And a bigger pot.
Yeah, or bust the pot into pieces and
or
just
breaks it out.
And
the farmer's like, let's just put it in the field. This thing has got some real piss and vinegar in him.
Yeah.
So, but that's the principle.
Yeah, we talk a lot, just excuse me, because you're talking about expansion and contraction. And so we talk about expansion and contraction in my world a lot in terms of becoming visible, being seen, being heard, expanding out here past the edges of your comfort zone, just past the edges, and that there's this natural contraction that happens. And so when we take that into the prosperity of wealth, abundance, that the expansion of your self-expression, the expansion of your mission, your message in the world, it doesn't happen on the other side. It's not, I'm confident, I'm clear, I'm going to go do it. I'm expanding.
Exactly.
One of the ways I would just talk about what you're talking about is this idea of, my head just exploded with 42 ideas, of living into your future self, of expanding into that bigger you, or that more confidence, the courage, the clarity, our practice. We talk about visibility as a spiritual practice here all the time. And you talked about that being a practice and living into the future, who you want to be, and that it doesn't happen. You don't get confident and clear and have everything all expanded and then expand, right? Exactly. And that's what you're talking about here. And I love the analogy of the tree.
Can I just speak that real quick?
Yeah,
I know you got 40 ideas. I'm sure I got at least 40. All these planes are trying to
I knew we would have fun together.
Yeah. It's so important, the point you're making, though. And I really want to hang a lantern on it, because we've been conditioned to believe that, again, something has to change before I can be more. And it's exactly the opposite.
Yes.
When you step into being more is when the change starts.
Yes.
And so you don't just wait to be confident. You act as if you're confident. You act like the person you want to be. You take that action. You bring that action into integrity with the vision. That's why, otherwise you're a house divided. It's like, I want to be a great singer. I want to be a successful artist. I believe God loves me. I'm supported, abundant. And then you don't actually put yourself out there. You're like, well, I got to wait till I'm sure. I got to wait till I'm confident. I got to wait till the ducks line up or whatever. And no, you have to bring the 4 quadrants of your character into alignment with your vision, the habit of thinking, feeling, being, and doing. Yeah. And if you are willing to step into it, remember, whatever's missing is what we're not giving. Yeah. It's already here. And the seed of your potential is just waiting the right condition, but not an external condition. Yeah. The seed outside in the garden is indigenous. It needs an external condition to thrive. We are endogenous, meaning that we are like a walking greenhouse. We carry the soil of our soul with us. We are self-effulgent, which means there can be no sun shining outside, but we can turn the light on inside. Everything we need is here. We are a self-contained greenhouse for God, whatever word works.
Source, universe, unified field.
Universe, higher power, your potential, Uncle Joe, whatever. So you can activate it, but you have to be the gardener and cultivate the conditions. And those conditions are both, like I said, with my waiter's job, I was like, well, if I was living that life of my dreams, how would I show up? How would I hold myself? What would I bring forth? And then it was like, I'm going to be excellent, because I would be excellent if I was living life. I'm going to be generous, I'm developing and activating all this circuitry in me. And it's like going to the gym. You don't go to the gym and go, well, I'll start working out when my muscles get stronger. Right?
Brilliant.
You actually go there, and you don't go, God, what's with all these weights? Get rid of all these weights, and then I'll go to the gym. Right? Or you don't go to school and go, well, I'll start this school as soon as I'm smart enough. Or what's with all the tests and studying? No, when the weight is heavy, you don't pray that it gets lighter. You just pray to get stronger. And then you start lifting it. You do the reps. When the mountain is in front of you, you don't wish it away. You climb it, and you become really good at mountain climbing.
Yeah.
And you're developing the skills and the abilities, not after the fact, but by fully showing up, fully being visible, fully engaging, saying yes to your yes, full out.
Yeah.
And yes, stumbling and falling and messing up. And that's how we learn to walk. Most people don't realize walking is actually controlled falling.
Nice.
That's what it is.
We talk a lot about, like, you don't spank the baby when the baby falls down, right? Like, you have to have a path to, like, get up and walk and develop the muscle of self-expression, of creativity, of growing a business, in our case here, right? Sharing your message, getting clear through speaking and delivering and showing up and serving. So,
and how are you going to learn that if you aren't able to fall? If you made it bad for the baby to fall, the baby would only crawl. And so we're like, great job, good fall, kid. And eventually the baby, just because the baby's not afraid of falling, the baby learns how to catch, and eventually walking is just, you catch yourself before you fall too far. That's all it is. I'm not even joking.
That's literal.
And success is just the ability to have controlled failure. It's just, I'm going to keep failing forward. And eventually now I'm walking, and then I'm running, and then I'm flying. But it starts with this understanding that nothing outside of us has to change, and nothing outside of us is the source of our good or the source of our bad, that everything is within us. And in the Awaken Wealth process and the free trainings and all that I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to show you how to reclaim that agency, how to turn back on, dust off that inner divine power plant, reconnect the circuitry so you can get it up to full capacity and start generating the life force, the inspiration, the clarity, and the flow of abundance that you need to meet all of your needs and to thrive.
So powerful. And I'm thinking about that push-pull that so many people who feel called, and yet we're looking, for me, if at first it was in a performance career, I felt called, but I was stymied by fear. And I was told you could be great. And that's years ago. But now we see people, and myself included, I feel called to help others. I feel called to share this big message. And yet I'm waiting for my message or my business to kind of prove its worthiness. I'm waiting for my marketing to be good enough, or my talk to be dialed in enough, or my offer to be clear enough, or I'm waiting for something outside of me through sales, through a mentor, through an audience, to make me convinced of its worthiness. And what you're talking about here is accessing your own inner divine worthiness, and as a practice, and implementing it as a practice.
Yeah, and not waiting to feel worthy or waiting to feel confident, but understand the principle. And that's why I start with principles, that the truth about you. And I know if you really become still, I don't mean just you, but anybody listening, the truth about you is that, again, we've been hypnotized into believing we're separate from our good, from each other, from God, or from life, or from love, or whatever. and we project it out onto the screen of our experience.
Yeah.
So we see people we hate, and it's a projection of our own misunderstanding of a part of ourself.
For sure.
Or we see people we admire. Oh my God, they're so amazing. The whole star system.
Yeah.
It's a projection of our own power and our own beauty and our own greatness.
Yeah.
And what I want you to understand, and this is not theory, this is the truth that I know for sure, that you are a unique, individualized expression of infinite power, infinite intelligence, infinite abundance, infinite genius, joy, peace, love, all the good you see as anyone, anywhere, ever, all of that is in you. It's like we are all like holographic expressions of the universe, and it's all in you, and it's in you in a unique and unprecedented and unrepeatable way. So you got to start there. That means you got it all. But the only way to experience all that you have is to begin giving it, is to begin expressing it. The only way out is in. You got to begin going in there, connecting, and then expressing it and circulating it. The more I used to give, I give talks now to tens of thousands of people. I started just giving talks to my cat in my underwear. Okay. Somebody had yeah, I don't know in your mind, but I had to start somewhere. And then, and then I got on a thing, and I messed up and had my first, interview like this. And then eventually the next one, you start there, but it activates, it brings stuff up. And then we won't maybe get into it today, but I'll share in my trainings if you guys sign up for the free training. Is there's shadows in there, which we talked a little bit about in the beginning around spiritual and heart-centered people. It's not spiritual to be wealthy and successful. Well, there's also shadows around unworthy or too much or not enough, or I'm being selfish, or I'm arrogant, or who do I think I am, or stupid or inadequate. And what spiritual teachings try to do is get us to overcome those parts of ourselves, or self-help. And it's the worst thing to do because they're a part of you. And I'm going to show you how specifically to embrace the shadows around wealth, abundance, and success. Because when you embrace the failure, when you embrace unworthy, when you embrace, greedy and selfish, and I show you how to integrate them, you become a clearer and a bigger and a stronger channel for this life force, for this abundance within you. You're no longer getting in the way of it. And it can start flowing more and more. And that's not something people talk about a lot. You have to make friends with these parts of you that you have judged as being bad or not enough. Inadequate. And then they will unlock whole new storehouses of treasure and wisdom, creative genius, compassion, and opportunity.
Beautiful, beautiful. We talk about your vulnerability is your strength, and those vulnerabilities and those edges of uncertainty and being willing to show up with all of it is part of how you give goosebumps, right? When you're in that moment of, I don't know, this is a little bit out past my edges of my comfort zone, right? And I wanted to say too, you were talking about expression, and I do believe that, at least from my definition of abundance, self-expression and the right to exist simply because I am has been huge in permission to show up and serve bigger, to make more money, to create a life that I want. And for a long time, it was a life in service. Like a lot of people will have permission through being in service to, and I think that's a great stepping stone. But expression means to press out, right? To press out. So if we're pressing out, there's something we're pressing against or through, right? And that resistance, if we just try and shove it in the, that's what I did, hustling to my equity auditions at 5 a.m. in New York City, right? I'm going to make it happen. And that's striving.
I remember the days of audition. I did that.
It's exhausting, but I was going to make it happen, and I was going to prove to myself, ultimately, to prove my worth. And I see it in business all the time as we're helping people who called to share, and yet we're looking for that external proof. And so that part of the, I'm sure our friend Sage Levine says, business is your spiritual path, right? And that's what I think about this expression piece. If you're holding back, some part of you is holding back, then there's a limit on your wealth, your abundance, your success, 100%. Your satisfaction.
Everything, because whatever's missing is what you're not giving. Bottom line,
Yeah.
period. If the
Beautiful.
acorn holds back, you don't get an oak tree. If it holds back at any level, you don't get an oak tree.
Yeah.
And there's the Gospel of Thomas saying that says, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If
Oh,
you do
beautiful.
not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you.
Yeah.
And Brene Brown says, unexpressed creativity is not benign. It metastasizes.
Oh, yeah.
And what did Jesus do to the fig tree that wasn't producing figs? He killed it. He cursed the tree and it died. He's like, no figs, get out of here.
No life.
No life. The point is that, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. It's not about, you didn't come here to take a vacation, maybe some of you, but everything in nature produces. If it doesn't bloom, it gets pruned. And if you're not, because that's why you're here. It's not only, like we said at the beginning, it's not only spiritual and okay to be wealthy and abundant, it's your spiritual obligation to have everything you need to thrive, so that you're not manipulating yourself and contorting yourself into a pretzel trying to get what you need, and then you don't have enough energy left over to give what you came here to give. So it's your obligation to be wealthy and abundant and thrive. It's also your obligation to give of the fruit of your purpose, to give of all that you are. It is your obligation. That's why you're here. And your joy is the activation of your potential. There's a reason why you feel so joyful when you're living your potential. Just like sex feels so good so that we'll keep procreating. Living and expressing your potential feels so good so that we'll keep giving of the fruit of our nature to the ecosystem of humanity. It's our responsibility.
Beautiful.
It's so we can let go of the shame, the guilt. Who am I to shine? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, who are you not to? It's egotistical to think you shouldn't. That's the ego. And that's the shadow.
Humility is self-expression. It's more humble to step into your power and share your voice, for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
And to know that it's not you personally, it's not your personality construct that is the source of that genius, any more than a branch is going to go, look at me, aren't I special? And all my ability to create fruit. Look at you, branch. You can't do what I do.
Be a tree.
Right. It's like, no, it's the tree that's doing it. And even more, it's an invisible substance and activity that is much bigger than the tree that's coming out of the earth and from the sky that's producing it. So we're instruments of it, but we're not the source of it.
Yeah.
And
through you and not of you, right? Like through you and from, but not created necessarily by you, because then we're into figuring and we're into calculating and how am I doing it right and all of that stuff. Oh my gosh, let's talk forever. Thank you so much. Will you tell us about, we get to have, thank you, your generous gift of the 5 hypnotic wealth spells. So I know we've touched on those, and I'm going to come back and not get into the technology. So I'm going to post a link to share those. So if you want it specifically, please comment wherever you're watching us, on the business page in the group or on YouTube. And I'm going to come back and make sure you have a direct link to get that. But I'd love for you to tell us.
You know what the link is? We could just speak it out loud for people that
well, I don't have a short link, so I'm going to post it. And I can do some of that if you'll tell us a little bit about what it's going to help us to do.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as we've been touching upon, and this is a book I wrote called The 5 Hypnotic Wealth Spells and How to Snap Out of Them. And it's the basic idea that we're all hypnotized to some extent. And we are, when you're hypnotized, you see something that's not there, or you don't see what is there. And you're living in your own dream of reality. And we've been hypnotized en masse. And now more than ever, there is very powerful hypnotic spells in the collective consciousness about, the dangers of the economy, or there's not enough to go around, or,
huge
whatever.
fear and
huge fear.
Yeah.
And so, and there's also some that you picked up from your lineage and your family, and there's some that are cultural and gender and all that. And I'm going to break down the 5 core ones and a lot of the sub elements, so you can actually begin to see and actually become aware where you're hypnotized. and snap out of these spells, out of these illusions, and see the opportunity that is everywhere, and see the possibility and potential that you really have, not just academically, not just theoretically, but viscerally, emotionally, energetically, in your body, in your soul, to have the actual experience of snapping out of it. And I'm going to walk you through that in the book. And then I'm also going to walk you through that in trainings. And there's more to come. I'm just revealing the first part, but I'm going to give you other trainings, and I'm going to get on trainings live with you and coach and support you even more in depth, and do quantum healing work during those live calls where people have literal catharsis and breakthroughs and openings and wake up to possibility. So that's the start of it. So you're going to start with the 5 hypnotic wealth spells and the trainings, and then there's more to come. So I would start there, but it's about really getting you anchored in your true power, your true agency, turning on your own divine power plant, becoming a master of manifestation, no matter what conditions you're facing and no matter what you've been through. When you learn how to no longer lean on the resource, but lean on the source, the whole world opens up for you. And again, this is not theoretical. I proved this when I was about to be evicted. I proved it to get my dream home when there was no way that was possible, and then do it again and again. I proved it by helping tens of thousands of people around the world. People have made millions of dollars from it, launched businesses, filled practices, you name it. So it's tried and true. Get your copy of it, and let's set you up for this long-term future and foundation for real success, and for you to bring your gifts to the world and make the difference you came here for, because now more than ever, the world needs what you're here to bring.
It's time. It's time. It's time. So good. I have had the gift and blessing of experiencing this work with you through some of these gifts, and being on calls with you. And I can even today here now, thank you so much for being here. I know the people who have been watching live are feeling that shift, and I've so enjoyed. And so I've just to say that I bring people to my world that I know your work personally, and the generosity of the trainings that you're sharing, and the potent power of showing up to those, something that I've experienced myself. So I am thrilled to have you here with us, shining your light and sharing your voice and raising the vibe. If you guys come back and check out the replay, let us know that you're here. Feel free to comment and message me if you have any questions about accessing Derek's training. We've got the link up on the business page. We'll get the link up on YouTube and in the group here in just a second. Derek, is there anything else that you want to say before we finish this? Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Transformational interview. Final thoughts.
I just want to say I understand how difficult things might feel for some of you, and I'm absolutely here to lift you up and expand and lift your spirits and open your heart and inspire you. And I know how hard it can feel and how hard it can be. And so none of this is to say that it's always going to be easy, or that there's anything wrong with you if you're sad and aggrieved and are struggling to pull yourself scared, and you're struggling to pull yourself out of quicksand or molasses, and you've tried so many things and it's not working. I get it. Been there, done that, have the t-shirt, still have a toothbrush just in case I return. And a spare pair of underwear. And
you're not a teenager anymore.
And I've been through all of that. I mean, and we talked about, and I hope that this brings you some hope that if you're willing to show up for yourself and join me and let me support you and hold you in this field and in this frequency of love, and know that you're in my heart and in my prayers, that I really am here to support you and lift you up, and a community of people like I know you have here also. That we're not meant to do this alone. And we need to be supported and loved and held and lean on each other. And so I just hope this gives you some hope that there is a place to go, and that this is real. You really can. I know what it feels like to be in the darkest night and to feel like there's no morning coming and I'm not going to make it through. I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it's not true. You will make it through, and you can make it through, but it will require something of you. It will require a little time and attention, and for you to care enough to get encouraged, to get support. But the hope is there, the possibility is there if you're willing. So I'm very grateful to be here and honored, and I look forward to connecting with you all.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Derek. We have one of the mantras we sing here is, God, hear me. Help me raise my voice. Help me make a choice to share the gift I bring. God, hear me. Help me take a stand and walk with me hand in hand, and I will sing. Help me be a champion for the silent. Help me heal the fears that keep me small. God hears me and fills my words with power, and in a dark hour I will sing. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Hallelujah!
Woo!
All right, revival up in here.
Go play with Derek and benefit and resonate in the radiance of his amazing teaching. It is a game changer for you. Thank you again for being here. Such a pleasure to have you. And we will see you all next time on Give Voice to Your Vision. Thanks again, guys. Have a great weekend.